Welcome to the Behind the Art Inspiration podcast, a sneak peek into the studio practices of all types of artists. Conversations for collectors who love to listen to the banter and creative process of international artists. I'm your host, Caroline Karp. Let's get to it. Well, hello, everyone. This is season 2, episode 6 of the Behind the Art Inspiration podcast. In this episode, I'll be virtually traveling from my Safety Harbor, Florida studio north to Madison, Wisconsin to speak to Marni Ratner about the art of expressive living. Marni is a big dreamer, a voice coach, and believes in the power of energy, inspiration, and breath. The art of expressive living, I'm going to actually get Marni to talk about that. But I also want to tell you that Marni is on a journey and she's traveling right now. So she's actually from the DC area and is on a journey. And I'm going to let her tell you about that too. So, hey, Marni, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a thrill to be talking to you again.
Yeah. So I started talking about the art of expressive living, and it's something that we've actually had many conversations on. And so I'd like you to just dive right in there and talk about that.
Yeah, I kind of came to me, it took, I would say, a decade to kind of figure out that could be a thing. And I would say even in the very, very recent past, meaning so recent, it's almost nominal to even mention, it could have been yesterday, of that the art of expressive living is a choice. It's a lifestyle choice. And I have always expressed myself extremely awkwardly and difficultly and sometimes disjointedly. And I've taken my tenure on the planet trying to figure out how to make this a plus for myself and instead of a minus. And what I'm finding out is the art of expressive living is basically a huge homogenous melding pot of different ways to communicate and to express ourselves through all of the modalities that most of us might consider as art, but I now consider as a necessity for communication and kind of even off-putting a little bit of our extra energy and uptick, it kind of just brings us back to center. How many different ways can you access to get to a point of clarity for yourself? And I realized to me that's an art and that's expressive living. And it shows up in every category of my life now that I'm aware of it.
And so I know that we had a list going. Can you tell us a few of those or all of those? I know you had
modalities.
Yeah, the modalities.
Yeah. So for me, expressive living, I was speaking recently about that I found that I was now craving to use my hand-eye coordination and draw. I'm not an artist. I don't draw, but the art of doodling really helped focus me. That is one. I am a trained singer, dancer, actor, so I use all of those modalities. I always see the world through the lens of writing, through the lens of what part am I playing in my own personal story. So that's what I teach. I teach using my hands the same times that I'm using my eyes and my knowledge and my verbal. And then we put it into our body. So body is one, dancing is one, walking is one, yoga is one, mindfulness is one, communicating, singing, on and on and on. I even think something that is just going into any kind of creative space. So we can add a million modalities that go into creative space that help us to live an expressive life.
Yes, and I know with speaking with so many different people, and there's that crackle again. We have to figure out, it's like somebody is in the line and with us, but neither Marni or I are doing this. So maybe there's a third being with us that we just can't see. But anyways, we're going to ignore that and just live with it expressively.
Yeah.
But with speaking with people, like people who might be speakers on a stage or having to perform in front of any kind of artist, any kind of audience, they do usually have a ritual before going onto the stage.
Absolutely.
To calm themselves.
Yes.
Right? And like you said, come to center.
Yep.
So that would be living expressively, like
100%. Completely.
expressing themselves so that they can express themselves.
Absolutely.
I think we have like a full-on Clydesdale, a bunch of horses.
It's interesting because something is truly trying to express itself, and I am very interested to know what. And I don't know what it is, and yet it seems to travel with me and many people I love all of the time. So, I mean, there's so much humor in it, actually, because I truly believe in different energies and
Yeah.
things that come in that needs to be shared or interpreted or ingested. And so
Right.
I'm grounding myself right now, and or kind of plugging in is what I like to call it. I have this
Yeah.
weird connotation to grounding, so I don't teach grounding. I teach focus. How can we focus? And life is noisy. And most of us don't pick up on what are the energies that are coming into our being or coming into our field. And some people like to call it into our presence, like what's around us. So I work with a lot of people. I mean, a lot through my entire history as a professional, whether I was just a working actress, meaning I only saw myself that way. And right now, I use myself as the example is the second I change where my voice gets produced from, my energy changes and all of it's gone. I was hoping it stays, that the extra Clydesdale hoofing is gone. Maybe it was a show. Maybe you were watching Chitty Chitty Bang Bang coming in.
Right.
When there
There it is.
a
See?
little bit.
Yeah. So what did I ask you though? I asked you about, actually didn't ask you anything. Now, you referred to, when we were talking before, you were talking about making a mandala.
Yep.
To kind of relax,
Yeah.
to become relaxed. And I was telling you about my little fun way to make the flowers of life.
Yeah.
And so as an artist, me being an artist, I do that all the time. Some people doodle, and then some people, make big paintings to do that same thing. So in that respect, that is also the art of expressive living.
100%.
Now, the yoga person who does yoga, the daily practice of yoga, that's expressive living. And so,
well, actually, let me back up because
yeah.
I think that might be confusing to people. So having a modality and having some place where you become grounded and commit your energy or have some kind of whatever interactions with your life, with what's going on outside of you, like that mindful meditation in yoga or that mindful meditation or just creative off-putting, as I'd like to say it, where you're in collaboration with your paper or your canvas. That is a part of expressive living. What I really think expressive living is recognizing what it is that you need in the moment to stay very connected to your life, whether it's in communication with another or it's in communication with your canvas. And that it has to include, I perceive at this point in my journey, let me back up. I perceive as I help people expressively live, it's more than just what is your one thing that helps you relax and get focused, but what are your multiple things that help you push out into the world and be most confident. And my story with you that I shared off camera about recognizing in real time when I was in the trenches, hanging out with my family who I don't live with, that I recognized for the very first time that my thought process was not going to serve me at 100% capacity, that I had more energy in my body. And since I couldn't sing in the middle of, this retirement home, I guess I could, but that would bring new stress. And I was tap dancing my feet down the pathway with my dog. It occurred to me that what my body was really asking me to do was do some hand-eye coordination, which to me was draw some mandalas. And I'm like, oh, I've never actually had that self-awareness that I actually needed to go to something different in my toolbox, because what my body wanted to express was something beautiful and not something just to calm me. It wanted to open up a bigger creative space that I, on some contextual level, knew that I was about to walk into something bigger than just myself, which is ultimately, weirdly, no idea why I knew, that is what I happened. That is what happened for me, is I needed to have all skills on board to be able to handle what was about to happen and how I needed to plug in and be present to what I was walking into, which in this case was my family. And how much I missed not having that opportunity to draw, because it felt like it was the right thing to do that would meet my needs in the moment. And that kind of expression would be very warranted, very welcomed. And I did not get it.
So I liked your reference to a toolbox,
Yeah.
right? Because I think that I don't know if many people have access to, or know how to access a toolbox or how to create a toolbox. And I think that, you and I are going to be launching into offering ways to do that. And so this might be the first time everybody's hearing this, but Marni and I are going to be creating a series which is helping to create your toolbox. Because everybody's toolbox is going to have slightly different tools in it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. It's a great place to actually insert here, if I may, is that when we're really in the thick of something and there's real emotion showing up, and that's why we want to expressively live, is to be able to handle our emotion and navigate our world. I mean, that's really the ultimate end game, is can I navigate and upregulate and downregulate my nervous system to my own benefit and success and ease in the world. So a toolbox, when we're really in the thick of it, because a lot of us do work on our toolboxes, but then never apply them to real life, because we default to the patterns that we know. And what you and I have discussed, and what I think it is so valuable to offer out to the world, is to recognize how to access the toolbox, and more importantly, when to access the toolbox. Expressive living, in my mind, and again, this is a very layman explanation, is the art of expressive living is a 24/7 philosophy. It is a lifestyle. So when stuff comes, I was prepared. I was clued in. I was not prepared. I was clued into the story that was about to take place a good 10 minutes before it happened, where I brought none of that with me into that room, where I knew I wanted to draw, and that was not available to me. It was not going to happen. And I walked in, and I'm like, here I am. But the skill that I had, just to make sure that it's really highlighted, the skill that I recognized in that moment I already had, was the wherewithal, the intuition, that this is a good time to be practicing my toolbox. Not after, the engagement, but before the engagement. It makes you incredibly self-aware. And I don't want to say self-involved, because that's not fair. We can be really good at this and not be an involved human being. We're always evolving. But we can be a mindful person, that I don't know what happens next in my world and who I want to show up before I ever touch a doorknob. That to me is really expressive living. So the more energy I off-put or express, and I love this analogy, so this is a great time to share it in hopes, is expressive living is just how you kind of see an orange, and it happened to be sitting here, so I'm taking it, and how do I squeeze juice out of it? Is it work, or is it just part of what this is available to me? Is it food? Is it juice? Expressive living is that creativity of what do I want to do with this? And I'm using the same example of me walking down the sidewalk, recognizing I wanted to do some art, thinking that I might need to express some words soon to a loved one, is I wanted as much juice out of this orange so I could just have open space in my body. Just be able to receive more and not feel injured or hurt or scared, because I wanted as much of that far away from my body as possible. And that,
nice.
Yeah. So that's,
and I do know that if someone is not feeling like they have access to all of those type things, or maybe they're feeling stuck or don't know how to make those connections and acquire those tools for the toolbox, some other people might find those just natural to have those things. Like, I find it natural just to go to a canvas and start working. I don't know.
Can you say that one thing again? Like what I heard very clearly, and I think it is incredibly, it would be a disservice to not stop here and share that, because, as a teacher first, truly as a teacher first, is that if people don't know how to access what is available to them that already lives within inside of them, like what are their positive skills? What are their tools? Oh.
Oops, she just went somewhere.
Sorry, decided to move. If you don't know how to use the skills that we all hear about, how to feel good, feel better, communicate better, be seen, be heard, whatever it is, there is, I think, a very specific way to teach this skill set, and this is what it is that we're going to teach together, is how to create the space in ourselves to first be able to analyze what is it that we would best benefit from. What are the best modalities that would work for me? So much of this self-exploration is truly trial and error. And so much of, bless you, is exposure. I witness all of the time wonderful, beautiful people where the mind and, just all of the kinetic energy in the mind is so busy and hijacks any good sense when anything's flared in the nervous system that lives in the body. Is what we're going to do. So much of what we're going to do is to create this kind of what we like to call, what everybody likes to call that safe place to explore and figure out what is it in me? What do I need that I may not know yet to bring me to neutrality and to stasis as many times a day as possible, that I'm fully aware when I'm not neutral and not in stasis. And that what is my go-to that brings me as close back to that core of myself in any situation at any time. And what you and I have learned time and time again, going back to my example, is you have to kind of create time and space to start to be able to hear and to adapt and to adopt. And art is the best way. Breathing and art and music, using all of the layers of who we are as people, is where we find the most space to learn and to grow. And I think our work together is pretty, I love this word, elegant, and gorgeous, elegant expression of how we learn to express ourselves. Not so stuck that expression only can be artistic, but it's emotional. And it's the combination of both. And it's neat. I find it all very, very neat. And I fully recognize how it almost can come off as being lofty, hard to do, because if we don't see ourselves as an artist or we don't see ourselves as a communicator, this can hijack before we ever give ourselves that safe space. There can be a rejection because we default to, I'm not good at that. And what's so beautiful is carefree. When we just think of it from an orange perspective or a mandala, without you were using a CD, just using a tool of a CD as a circle, it becomes incredibly manageable. And we're opening space. Yeah, thank you for having it right there. What I see in people is when you give them these little beautiful tiny nuggets of success, of something that also metaphorically and literally reminds us of something that they know. They have an understanding. They have a history with the CD, that we can make that leap into that creative space a little bit easier. The CD, in a sense, a tool, becomes a key into what it is that we haven't done yet or what we could try. And I'm totally, freewheeling here, but I think both you and I have seen incredible amount of improvement and success and ease in people that we love and people that we work with when they onboard, bring into their world more possibilities to express themselves that can be safe, that don't need another person to feel the way that to feel their desired outcome, which is to feel good and useful.
Right. So what Marni and I are talking about is a retreat that we're planning. I don't know if we're going to call it a retreat, but we're going to be making soul tapes. And I know that one of us is having a hard time hearing each other. True. So, yeah. So what I'm going to do, Marni, is I'm going to close this session, and but don't go anywhere, because I think this will be a two-parter. But just in case everybody can hear me, thank you so much for watching and listening as I share my love of fun, connection, collaboration, and art. It would be great if you were to subscribe to my channel. Being a facilitator of conversation, I pose an open-ended question to each artist. Caroline style, tell me one sentence about you and what you do. And from there, the conversation just flows. So once again, thank you very much. And I'm going to end this session.